You just got a raise, 20% more money, and somehow you feel broker than ever. Here's the brutal truth nobody wants to admit. Making more money doesn't fix your financial problems. It just upgrades them. I'm going to walk you through the hidden psychology behind why high earners feel broke, why your brain is literally wired to sabotage your wealth building strategy, and most importantly, how to break the cycle before it destroys your financial freedom. And look, this isn't some motivational speech about discipline or cutting out coffee. This is about the behavioral finance patterns that are running in the background of your brain without you even knowing it. Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you, it's going to change everything you thought you knew about money. Let's start with something you need to understand. There's this concept in behavioral economics called the hedonic treadmill, and it's the reason why lottery winners go broke and why your last raise didn't make you happier. Here's how it works. Your brain has this baseline level of happiness. Let's call it your emotional set point. When something good happens, like a promotion or a raise, your happiness spikes. You feel amazing. You feel like you've made it. But here's the twist. Your brain is designed to adapt. Within 3 to 6 months, according to research from psychologist Daniel Kahneman, you return to your baseline. That new salary, it becomes your new normal. And suddenly, you need more to feel that same high. It's not greed, it's neuroscience. Your brain is literally adjusting its dopamine receptors to accommodate your new reality, the salary that felt life-changing 6 months ago. Now it just feels meh. And this is where the trap begins. See, when your income goes up, something else happens automatically. Something most people don't even notice until it's too late. Your lifestyle inflates. Not because you are irresponsible, but because of something psychologists call reference point adjustment. Let me break this down. When you were making $50,000 a year, your reference point, the mental benchmark your brain uses to evaluate normal, was built around that number. A $30 dinner felt like a splurge. A $100 shopping trip needed justification. But the moment you hit $75,000, your brain recalibrates. Suddenly, that $30 dinner is just Tuesday. The $100 shopping trip? That's barely worth thinking about. Your new reference point demands higher quality everything. Better apartment, nicer car, fancier vacations. And here's what's insane. Studies show that for every dollar increase in income, lifestyle expenses increase by about 80 to 90 cents within the first year. You're not even keeping that extra money. You're just redistributing it to a more expensive version of your same life. This is why behavioral finance experts say that personal finance investing isn't really about the numbers. It's about emotional intelligence in finance. It's about recognizing when your brain is playing tricks on you. But here's where it gets even more interesting. There's another psychological force at work. And this one's way more dangerous. It's called relative deprivation. You ever notice how the more money you make, the more you start comparing yourself to people who make even more? That's not an accident. That's your brain's status monitoring system kicking into overdrive. When you were making $50K, you compared yourself to other people making $50K. Maybe you felt pretty good about yourself. But the second you jump to $100K, your peer group changes. Now you're noticing your colleague's Tesla, your friend's vacation home, your neighbor's designer wardrobe, and suddenly you feel poor again. This is what psychologists call upward social comparison, and it's one of the most toxic cognitive biases when it comes to wealth mindset. Because here's the thing. There will always be someone richer. Always. Even if you're making $1 million a year, there's someone making $10 million. And if you're making $10 million, there's someone making $100 million. The comparison game is unwinnable. And yet, your brain keeps playing it on autopilot. Robert Kiyosaki talks about this in his work on financial freedom. He says, most people are stuck in what he calls the rat race, not because they don't make enough money, but because they don't understand the psychology of money. They're chasing income instead of building assets. They're focused on looking wealthy instead of being wealthy. Now, let me show you something that'll really blow your mind. There's a phenomenon in behavioral economics called loss aversion, and it's probably costing you more money than you realize. Here's the research. Studies by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky found that people feel the pain of losing money about 2 to 2.5 times more intensely than the pleasure of gaining the same amount. What does that mean in real life? It means you'll hold on to a bad investment way too long because selling feels like admitting defeat. It means you'll avoid taking smart financial risks because the fear of loss paralyzes you. But here's the kicker. Loss aversion doesn't just apply to investing. It applies to your entire money mindset. You're so afraid of losing your current lifestyle that you can't stomach the temporary sacrifice needed to build real wealth. You can't downsize your apartment, even though the rent is killing you. You can't drive a modest car, even though the lease payment is bleeding you dry. Why? Because downgrading feels like losing, and your brain hates losing more than it loves winning. This is why financial decision-making is so hard. You're not fighting against logic. You're fighting against millions of years of evolutionary wiring that's screaming at you to avoid loss at all costs. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room, debt. Now, I know what you're thinking. Debt is bad, right? I should avoid it. Well, not exactly. There's good debt and bad debt, and understanding the difference. That's where the growth mindset separates from the limiting beliefs. Bad debt is anything that drains your wealth. Credit cards at 20% interest. Car loans for depreciating assets. Buying stuff you don't need with money you don't have. But good debt? That's leverage. Robert Kiyosaki built his entire philosophy around this idea, using debt leverage to acquire assets that generate passive income, real estate investment trusts, dividend growth stocks, businesses that produce cash flow. The wealthy don't avoid debt. They just use it differently. But here's where most people mess up. They hear leverage and think it's a permission slip to go into debt for a bigger house or a luxury car. That's not leverage. That's lifestyle inflation disguised as investing. Real leverage means borrowing money to buy something that pays you back, something that generates more income than the debt costs you. That's the difference between working for money and having money work for you. Let me share a story that'll make this crystal clear. I know 2 people who got raises in the same year. Both went from $60,000 to $90,000, $30,000 jump. Exact same situation. Person A upgraded everything, moved to a luxury apartment, extra $1,500 a month, leased a new BMW, $600 a month, started eating out 4 times a week instead of once, upgraded the wardrobe, better gym membership, premium subscriptions for everything. Within a year, person A was living paycheck to paycheck, again, just at a higher income level. Person B, completely different approach. Kept the same apartment, kept the same car, took that entire $30,000 raise and split it half into index funds like the S&P 500, half into building an emergency fund. Person B applied what's called asset allocation, the strategy of distributing wealth across different investment vehicles to manage risk and maximize compounding interest. Fast forward 5 years. Person A makes $120,000 now and still feels broke. still stressed about money, still living month to month. Person B makes $110,000 and has over $200,000 in investments generating dividend growth, has true financial freedom, sleeps well at night. Same starting point, completely different money mindset. So here's the question you're probably asking. Okay, I get it. My brain is sabotaging me, but what do I actually do about it? Great question. Let me give you the framework that actually works. Because this isn't about willpower or discipline. This is about outsmarting your own psychology. Step 1. Automate your wealth building strategy before you see the money. Here's why this works. Remember that hedonic treadmill we talked about? Your brain can't miss what it never sees. The moment you get paid, have a percentage automatically transferred to investment accounts. Portfolio management on autopilot. You're not relying on discipline. You're designing a system that removes temptation entirely. Behavioral finance research shows that people who automate their savings save 3 to 4 times more than people who rely on manual transfers. Why? Because you're working with your brain's laziness instead of fighting against it. Step 2. Anchor your lifestyle to a lower income level. Let's say you make $100,000. Live like you make 70. That 30,000 gap, that's your wealth building engine. But here's the psychological trick that makes this easier. Don't think of it as sacrifice. Reframe it as buying your future freedom. Every dollar you don't spend today is a soldier in your army of financial independence. That's not deprivation. That's critical thinking about long-term value. Step 3. Build what I call your passive income floor. This is where real financial freedom starts. Your passive income floor is the minimum amount of income you can generate without actively working. Dividend growth stocks, real estate investment trusts, index funds that compound over time. The goal? Get to a point where your passive income covers your basic living expenses. Once you hit that floor, everything changes. You're no longer desperate. You're no longer one layoff away from disaster. You've got options. And options? Options are the ultimate wealth. This is what Kiyosaki means when he talks about getting out of the rat race. It's not about retiring early or never working again. It's about having the choice to work because you want to, not because you have to. Step 4. Upgrade your peer group intentionally. Remember that upward social comparison trap we talked about? Here's how you flip it. Surround yourself with people who have a healthy relationship with money. People who prioritize financial freedom over status symbols. People who understand behavioral economics and can call out your cognitive biases when you're about to make a dumb decision. Your environment shapes your habits more than your willpower ever will. If you're surrounded by people who lease luxury cars and take debt-funded vacations, guess what you'll do? But if you're around people who invest, who build assets, who think long-term, you'll absorb that mindset through osmosis. Emotional intelligence in finance isn't just about controlling your own emotions. It's about engineering your environment so the default path is the smart path. Now, let me tell you about the mistake that kills most people's wealth-building strategy. They try to time the market. They see investment risk management as this active, constant thing. They're checking their portfolio every day, panicking when it drops, getting greedy when it spikes. And you know what happens? They buy high and sell low. Every single time. Here's what the research actually shows. A study from Dalbar found that the average investor underperforms the S&P 500 by nearly 4% per year. Not because the market is rigged, but because they can't control their emotions. They're making financial decisions based on fear and greed instead of data and discipline. The wealthy? They do the opposite. They set up their portfolio management strategy once. They choose a diversified mix: index funds, real estate investment trusts, dividend growth stocks. They automate contributions. And then they ignore it. They understand that compounding interest is the eighth wonder of the world, as Einstein supposedly said. But compounding only works if you leave it alone. Every time you panic and pull your money out, you're resetting the compounding clock to zero. Here's something that might make you uncomfortable. The reason you feel broke isn't because you don't make enough money. It's because you've been trained by society to equate spending with success. Think about it. Every ad you see, every TV show, every social media post, they're all designed to make you believe that happiness comes from the next purchase, the next upgrade, the next status symbol. And your brain? Your brain is wired to seek social approval. It's an evolutionary survival mechanism. Thousands of years ago, being accepted by the tribe meant life or death. So when you see everyone around you buying stuff, your brain interprets that as, this is what successful people do, and you follow along, even when it's destroying your financial future. This is what limiting beliefs look like in action. You've internalized the message that you need to look wealthy to be respected, that you need the fancy car, the designer clothes, the Instagram-worthy lifestyle. But here's the truth. Real wealth is invisible. It's the index funds you can't photograph, the dividend checks you don't post about, the compounding interest that's quietly building in the background. The people who look rich, they're usually broke. The people who are actually rich, you'd never know it. Let me give you one final psychological insight that changed everything for me. It's called mental accounting. Your brain doesn't see all money as equal. It creates different mental buckets for different types of money and treats them completely differently. For example, you'd never spend $200 on a fancy dinner if it came from your paycheck. But if you won $200, suddenly it's fun money, and you blow it without thinking twice. Same $200, different mental bucket, different behavior. The wealthy understand this, and they hack it. They create intentional mental buckets. They label their money with purpose. This account is for wealth building. This account is for living expenses. This account is for guilt-free spending. And by creating these buckets deliberately, they're working with their brain's natural tendency instead of fighting against it. You can enjoy your money and build wealth at the same time. You just have to be strategic about how you frame it mentally. So here's where we are. You now understand why earning more doesn't make you feel richer. You know about the hedonic treadmill, lifestyle inflation, loss aversion, and all the cognitive biases that are quietly sabotaging your financial freedom. But understanding the problem isn't enough. You need to take action, and the action doesn't have to be massive. It doesn't have to be perfect. Start with one thing. Automate 10% of your income into an index fund. Just 10%. Set it up today and forget about it. That's it. No complicated portfolio management. No trying to pick individual stocks. Just boring, simple, effective wealth building. And then let compounding interest do the heavy lifting. Because here's the secret that nobody tells you. Building wealth isn't about being smart. It's not about timing the market. It's not about finding the next big thing. It's about controlling your psychology, managing your emotions, designing systems that make the right decision the easy decision. That's financial freedom. Not the freedom to buy whatever you want, but the freedom to choose how you spend your time. The freedom to say no to things that don't serve you. The freedom to take risks because you've got a safety net. That's what real wealth looks like. Now, I want to hear from you. What's the biggest money mistake you've made because of one of these psychological traps? Drop it in the comments below. No judgment. We've all been there, and if this video helped you see money differently, do me a favor, share it with someone who needs to hear this. Your friend who just got a raise and is already planning how to spend it. Your family member who's stuck in the paycheck to paycheck cycle. Because the truth is, schools don't teach this stuff. Nobody talks about behavioral finance or emotional intelligence in finance. We're all just winging it and hoping for the best. But now you know better. And knowing better means you can do better. I'll see you in the next one.